How's it going, guys? CheesyCats here. With patch 1.3.0 right around the corner, I felt it would be a good idea to summarize the upcoming weapon metagame. There are a few key points that I want to emphasize as far as which weapons you should be working towards, regarding both weapon series currently in the game, as well as ones that aren't yet available. Let's get started. First, let's quickly touch on what your weapon goals should be if you're a player that hasn't yet completed the Master of All story arc. You should basically be building weapons as you proceed through the new towns. As you fight new random monsters in new areas, you'll pick up new loot which can be brought to the blacksmith to pick up some of the latest equipment. While you don't need to be constantly upgrading every single member of your party every single time you unlock a new set of weapons, you won't want to fall too far behind, so I'd recommend giving your character's loadout some attention every couple towns or so. The strongest weapon series that you can unlock in shops prior to clearing the Master of All arc is the level 60 Meteorite series, and it's recommended to use these weapons to take on the Master of All arc's final boss. Next, let's talk about the Stamp and Ballen weapons. Stamp weapons can be purchased in the exchange for 50 memory fragments. They start out fairly weak at only level 20, but they have a passive that gives a 20% chance for the wielder to start the fight with 1 extra BP. These stamp weapons can be upgraded using legendary ashes, which are obtained by beating the extra bosses in the tower at the Nameless Town. Stamp weapons can go through several levels of upgrades, going from Stamp 1 to 2 to 3, then to an improved Stamp 1 to 2 to 3, and then finally to a Ballen weapon. As you upgrade the stamp weapon higher and higher, the stats increase, as well as the percent chance for the wielder to start with an extra BP. It starts at 20%, going to 25, 30, 40, and eventually capping out at 50% chance. Each of the materials needed for each of the upgrade steps will be displayed on screen. Some of those materials needed for the later upgrades aren't available yet in patch 1.2.1, but should be available on patch 1.3.0 when they add the final two areas, the Sunlands and the Highlands, to the tower. The Ballen weapons can be obtained in one of two ways. You can either upgrade a stamp weapon into one, or you can buy one outright via the exchange for 1,000 memory fragments. As of patch 1.2.1, these are currently the strongest available weapons for classes that do not yet have their battle-tested weapons, that is, dagger, staff, fan, and sword, as they are stronger than the currently available Fenrir, Innocent, and Tyrant 3. However, they are slightly weaker than BTs. Ballen weapons can be upgraded as well, just like stamp weapons, just not yet. In order for Ballen weapons to be upgradable, it will require legendary ashes from the second ring of Bonfires of Battle, which correspond to new towns like Donetsk. Even though Ballen weapons can be upgraded to a Ballen 3, they are still going to end up being weaker than Fenrir, Innocent, and Tyrant 4, which should be coming out very soon. Additionally, Ballen weapons also give a small boost to EXP to the holder. The main thing that I like to use stamp or Ballen weapons for is on utility 3 or 4-star characters that have powerful special skills. Some of you have been asking on my videos what the meters are above my character's BP, and those are an ability that will be added to the game at a much later point. Basically, think of them like an ultimate skill. The reason Ballen weapons are important is because of the additional BP that they grant to our units. Charging these special skills requires using a certain amount of BP, and 3-star or 4-star characters can normally only start every battle with 2 BP. With a third starting BP, this unlocks some new possibilities with faster strats. If you haven't picked up any of the Ballen weapons yet, I would stay away from them for now, as 1,000 memory shards apiece is a pretty huge investment, especially for something that will get phased out of the metagame fairly quickly. But if you've already picked them up, you'd eventually want them for the weapon collection feats anyway, so it's not the end of the world. Next, let's talk about the battle-tested weapons. In patch 1.3.0, the latter half of the battle-tested weapons should be added to the game along with the latter 4 expert hunts. These are the BT Dagger NPC in the lower part of Kragspear, who's weak to lightning and sword, the BT Staff NPC in the cemetery in Clearbrook, who's weak to tome and wind, the BT Fan NPC on the far left in Sunshade, who's weak to axe and ice, and the BT Sword NPC in the upper part of Shepherd's Rock, who's weak to spear and ice. While BT weapons have been the strongest weapons in the game up until this point, once the Series 4 weapons get added to the game, BT weapons will simply be a stepping stone moving forward. Speaking of, let's talk about the new top dogs, the Fenrir, Innocent, and Tyrannical 4 weapon series. These are significantly stronger than any of the weapons currently available, using both a Series 3 weapon plus a BT weapon as materials to craft them. For every single weapon type, Tyrannical 4 weapons will always have stats directly in between the other two series. Fenrir 4 will have 20 more attack and 10 less magic than a Tyrannical 4, while an Innocent 4 will have 20 less attack and 10 more magic. However, as previously discussed on the channel, tyrannical 4 weapons will have the advantage of a higher grade, which gives hidden extra offensive stats, and makes it stronger than both Fenrir and Innocent 4s in both attack and magic, as long as you're outside the arena. Within the arena, take the weapon stats at face value instead, as grade bonuses are ignored. Depending on how much you're willing to grind out these new weapons, I have 3 different weapon plans that you could potentially follow. If you want the easiest approach to the Series 4 weapons, just build 8 Tyrant 4s, 1 in every single weapon type, and then skip Fenrir 4 and Innocent 4 altogether. You'll have a bit lower damage in the arena compared to the more specialized Fenrir and Innocent weapons, but will still be more than enough to get the job done, and you'll have the best available damage for all fights outside of the arena. Do note that this plan doesn't account for using multiple characters of the same job on a single team, so you may want to build additional 4s if you plan on doing that. The next weapon plan is 5 Fenrirs, 3 Innocents, and 8 Tyrants. The 5 Fenrirs would be on the physical classes: Sword, Spear, Dagger, Axe, and Bow, while the 3 Innocents would be on the magic classes: Tome, Staff, and Fan. This plan covers both in-arena and out-of-arena usage, while also having multiple 4s for each class available if you plan on bringing multiple characters of the same job. This plan is the one that I think most players could reasonably work toward. Finally, there's the hardcore min-max setup, where you build as many weapons as you potentially see yourself using on a single team, both in and out of arena. If you want to absolutely push the limits of your account and try to speedrun difficult fights to kill them in as few turns as possible, you're probably already doing this. One major concern that a lot of players have is with the longevity of the Fenrir, Innocent, and Tyrant 4 weapon series, as in, how long do these weapons stay relevant? To answer that question, let's talk about the next upcoming weapon set, Sacred Weapons. These weapons will be available when the dungeon underneath the Tytos Cathedral is added to the game in the upcoming patch. These weapons are level 63 and grant additional SP when upgraded. Assuming Fenrir, Innocent, and Tyrant 4 are added to the game in 1.3.0, Sacred Weapons will probably never be considered meta weapons. The reason is because of when Sacred 4s come out. In JP, Sacred, Twilight, Adaman, and Atlas all got their 4 weapons at the same time, which wouldn't happen until at least all of those other weapon series are out, which could take another few months. Additionally, their 4s didn't even get released into the game until a month after Atlas was introduced. Because of this, Sacred and Twilight were basically never given any time to shine, and were instead relegated to being used on utility units that weren't used primarily for their damage. The extra SP was useful on characters like Viola, while the Twilight weapons, which gave extra HP, were useful on tanks like Gilderoy. However, neither series was ever the best weapons at any point, even when their 4s came out. Fenrir, Innocent, and Tyrant 4 should remain the best available weapons until about 4 months from now, which is the earliest that I could see Sacred, Twilight, Adaman, and Atlas getting their 4s. If Sacred and Twilight end up getting their 4s earlier, I'll make a video regarding that when the time comes. Additionally, if Fenrir, Innocent, and Tyrant 4 don't end up coming out in this patch, the best available weapons will continue to just be the battle-tested weapons. And that's all for today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Up next will be the character overview for the final Bravely collab character, Agnes. So until then, this has been CheezyCats. See ya!